Welcome to today's meeting, first meeting for 2022. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online in accordance with council's live streaming policy and governance rules. The chair and or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and or comments. Thank you. The COVID-19 Omnibus Bill 2020 provision allows council meeting attendance by electronic means. The requirement of the meeting being open to the public is satisfied by the meeting being streamed live to council's internet. In the event of technical issues with the live stream, the meeting will be adjourned. Councillors are deemed as being in attendance if they can hear proceedings. They can see other members in attendance and be seen by other members. They can be heard to speak. Ask that, and probably I'll lead the way here, that we make sure we turn off our mobile phones or put them onto silent. So Bass Coast Shire acknowledge the Bunurong as traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and law. Bass Coast Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower the Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Island communities in their diversity. Bass Coast Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander peoples. I now call on Councillor Bauer to read the councillor statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on this agenda based on the individual merits of each item, without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or the vote on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Apologies, we have an apology from Councillor Rooks. There are no declarations of interest, and brings us to confirmation of the minutes from the 15th of December 2021 meeting. And we have a resolution, the minutes of the council meeting held on the 15th of December 2021 be confirmed. Can I have a councillor move that, please? Councillor Lang and seconded Councillor Kent. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Public question time. Now we'll do this. I will read out the questions and throw to the CEO for the answers. The first one is from Wayne Cole. Topic: social housing development. 1. What is the council doing to ensure a fair, timely and open consultation process regarding the proposed social housing in the reserve between Royden and Wyndham, specifically the consultation with the people who live beside or close to the proposed development site before it is approved? 2. How has the council addressed the issue of consulting with residents living near the same proposed social housing development site in Cowes who have medical conditions which may force them to move away from the area? CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the November 2021 council meeting, council identified and resolved to make available a number of unused road reserves. Since then, Community Housing Limited have undertaken an assessment of the sites and they are looking to progress the following 2 sites: Ivor Street, Henry Street East and Henry Street West, Wonthaggi North, and the second at Wyndham Street and Royden Street, Cowes. The next step is for Community Housing Limited to develop their proposals for submission to the funding stream. Council will ensure that if Community Housing Limited is successful, that they undertake consultation and engagement with council and the local community before submitting their proposal to the Minister for Energy, Environment and Climate Change for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Wasty. The second question is from Kevin Griffin, Council Policy 1. At the 15th of December 2021 ordinary meeting, councillors were railroaded into accepting the complaint handling policy and the Bass Coast Shire Council procurement policy to remain compliant with timelines in the Local Government Act. While there's neither of these policies put out for public consultation before being presented to Council. 2, will Council now advise the community as to which policies are scheduled or proposed to be reviewed in 2022, including details as to the date each policy will be put to Council and whether each policy will first be put out for community consultation? And just before I pass to the CEO, I reject the assertion that councillors were railroaded. Councillors are fully briefed on these matters and are quite within their own ability to make up their own minds as they do. CEO.
Through the Mayor, policies that are operational in nature, such as the procurement policy and the complaint handling policy, do not require public consultation. This is standard practice with Victorian councils. Each policy contains a review clause and a time frame for its review.
Question 3, Graham Jolly, topic quarterly report figures. Why is Council reporting 2 different financial figures? Fourth quarterly financial report ending 30/6/2021 and the annual report ending 30/6/2021 show multiple financial differing figures when auditors have signed and approved both reports. The annual report 2021 pages 118 and 122 reports various capital figures. Why are the figures on pages 118 and 122 different to page 11 of the fourth quarterly financial report that has a heading Statement of Capital Project Expenditure end 30 June 2021? CEO.
Through the Mayor, Council report various financial figures within the annual report. Each measure is calculated using standard financial equations and when read in conjunction with each other are intended to provide a detailed picture of Council's financial sustainability and performance. Council's 2020-21 annual report was audited by external parties during 2021 and received an unqualified audit opinion from the Victorian Auditor General's Office. Page 11 of the 2020-21 quarter 4 financial report is inclusive of all expenditure related to capital projects. Pages 118 and 122 of the 2020-21 annual report only represent capital expenditure that can be financially capitalised in line with international accounting standards. Explanation for this difference can be found on page 11 in the 2020-21 quarter 4 financial report.
Question 4, Keith Godridge, Yallock Surf Beach Sand Fences. 1, what is the final cost of installing version 2 of wet sand fences at the Yallock Surf Beach? And 2, how much has been spent to date on sacrificial sand at the Yallock Surf Beach?
Through the Mayor, the second design of wet sand fences included 1 fence at the Yallock Surf Lifesaving Club site and 1 fence at the Cape Patterson Yallock Road site. These fences were constructed in 2019 at a total cost of $77,083.50, including GST. Since 2019, sand renourishment works have been conducted at a number of sites to protect from erosion, and expenditure today is $155,146.
Next question is from Kim Lightfoot, Capital Investment Policy 2018. Council Capital Investment Policy 2018 is due for review. When will Council seek public comment towards the review of this capital investment policy?
Through the Mayor, the investment policy, which focuses on risk minimisation, financial governance and administration, is required to be reviewed by the Audit Committee and Council every 2 years. Given the nature of the policy, public consultation will not be sought and expert advice and independent comment is provided by the Audit Committee. The policy is scheduled to be reviewed during the 2022 calendar year.
Question 6 is from Andrew Marston, topic roundabout landscaping. In June 2020, Council allocated funds to implement stage 1 of landscaping works at Woolamai Beach and Back Beach Road roundabouts on Phillip Island. Woolamai Beach Road roundabout in 2022 is presently a mixture of mulch and weeds. When will the landscaping improvement take place?
Through the Mayor, Council planted the site with new plants, which have since been driven over several times and damaged and repaired. Council is in discussions with Regional Roads Victoria in regards to the ongoing maintenance and ways to prevent vandalism to the roundabout. We have on our program to attend and maintain the site 4 times a year, and the next is scheduled in March.
That brings us to E.1 Petition, proposed establishment of a small car park on Mabilia Road, Kilcunda, to support Yallock-Bulluk Marine and Coastal Park Access and Infrastructure Plan. Can I have a councillor move the recommendation? Councillor Halstead. You're on mute, councillor.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I actually have an amendment to the recommendation.
We got that ready. We'll just put that up, Councillor Halstead, onto the screen for people's council's information. If you just tell us what it's about without speaking to it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation 1, 2 and 4 remain the same, and it's point 3 that would you like me to read point 3 out as amended?
Yeah, we're just having a little bit of a technical issue there. We've got the wrong one up on the screen, so we'll do it again. You might read it out. Yeah, that might move us along. Move out your part 3. Read out rather.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I've got the wrong one on my page as well.
We'll just... Yeah, we're about to get now. Right, don't touch it.
So the amendment is in point 3 that the council CEO writes to Parks Victoria on behalf of the community to highlight the concerns raised by the community and request consideration be given for the removal of proposed car park from the Yallock-Bulluk Marine Coastal Park Access and Infrastructure Plan, and that a copy of this letter be forwarded to the local state member for Bass Jordan Crugnali.
Thanks, Councillor Halstead. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Kent. Councillor Halstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The community didn't get an option to put forward their local knowledge during the consultation process, as this car park wasn't added until after consultation had taken place. So I'd like to thank the community of the Mabilia Road estate for highlighting it and agree with all the concerns they've raised, particularly the access point to the estate, which has been raised at council before during previous items debated. Given the speed of vehicles on Bass Highway and the actual entrance is partially to a sort of gravel entry and exit. My understanding is that this car park is made up of only 3 car parks, but if it was to go out in all the marketing paraphernalia for the new Yallock-Bulluk Coastal Marine Park, it's quite likely to attract a number of people seeking to park and use that trail. This is a very high area of residence. The park itself has been known to have kangaroos, local families of kangaroos. So it is quite a near and dear area to the local residents, and I would argue probably not suitable to be promoting a public car park, and should be left for the use of the local community there, who has not a great deal of open green space aside from what will soon be the Yallock-Bulluk Coastal Marine Park. So I once again thanks the Mabilia Road estate and the community there for raising this. I was not aware either of this car park having been put in as part of the plan, and I hope that council will support the recommendation or the amendment to the recommendation. Thanks,
Councillor. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. My main concern is that this proposed car park was never originally proposed or shown on the original draft plans that the public had a chance to be consulted on, so that there would be no feedback from the public recorded in regards to them not wanting this car park. I just don't see how we can sign off when we can argue that the public haven't been consulted over something. I have great concerns about the safety of turning into this roadway, which leads to this proposed car park. It's also a dirt road. There has been issues for emergency vehicles in the area. And I would like to see the public down near Kilcunda, opposite the store, supporting local facilities down there. And to me, the proposal of making a 3-car park just doesn't make sense to me. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? If not, Councillor Halstead, are you happy to put it to a vote, or do you wish to make any other points?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Nothing further.
Okay, then we'll put that resolution to a vote. Those in favour? That's carried. So it brings us to notice of motion F1 public dump points. Councillor Rochelle Halstead. Would you like to read your notice of motion, Councillor Halstead, without speaking to it?
Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Mr Mayor. I'm doing this off my computer and I haven't quite got that up either. Sorry, councillors.
If we can just load it up for you.
That'd be great if Mr Mack has it there.
Okay.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'll read the motion out.
We can take that as read, probably, if councillors are happy to understand what we're talking about. Is there a seconder for that notice of motion? Councillor Kent. So we'll just let you talk to it now, Councillor Halstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It was my intention to ask councillors to support the installation of dump points across the Shire immediately. However, given our camping strategic review is due in June, it seemed more appropriate to include this work as part of the review. Bass Coast currently has 3 dump sites or dump points, and those of you who have camped and caravanned would know what those dump points are. I probably shouldn't go into it too deeply. Cows offers a service for a fee, so you can use the Cows Caravan Park, but you need to pay a fee to be able to use theirs. And Newhaven and Inverloch are the other 2 locations, but they only allow for the dump site to be used by their guests. The Caravan Industry Association of Australia reported in 2020 that the industry brings a $23 billion benefit to the economy across Australia, with $10 billion being spent in the regions. And these figures have skyrocketed since border closures. And if we can make Bass Coast more caravan and camper friendly, why wouldn't we, for the benefit of our tourism precincts and our local businesses? I ask councillors to consider installing these points as part of the 2023 budget talks, as to encourage caravan and camping, as I hope we will, makes this service a crucial element for the environmentally safe disposal of cassette waste. So I'm really looking forward to the return of that caravan and camping strategic review in June. And I hope councillors will support that we make sure that we really do consider installing these dump sites. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Halstead. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. Look, I thank Councillor Rochelle Halstead for putting in this motion. I'm looking forward to the review in June this year, and I would hate to think that the review could have missed considering this point of dump points. So it's great that it will be included. With my own experience as a caravaner, I have seen these dump points operating at information centres throughout Victoria, and it's amazing how people will call in there, use the dump point, but then we have them trapped please come into the information centre and see what our township offers to you. You may not have had an intention of staying here, but we've got you there. Have a look at the brochures, and we never know what we may get out of these caravan people and camping people by doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wishing to speak to this motion? Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I support this motion fully, especially the New Haven Tourist Information Centre point, and I will reiterate what Councillor Kent said. While they're doing what they have to do, they go in, they look in, see what's available, not only on Phillip Island, but also, especially if they're leaving the island, what's available in the entire Shire, which has a lot to offer. So I fully support this, and I understand why this motion was put forward, to make sure this doesn't get left off the review, and I think it's a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Yes, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may briefly, I welcome this motion as something that should be considered in the strategic review. However, I don't want to preempt the outcome of what the review says about dump points. I have lived in an RV-friendly town for many years in WA, and there's quite a lot of value to free dump points, you know, in situations where for hundreds of square kilometres there's not a caravan park in sight. But I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked through the strategic review, because we do have a lot of local caravan park businesses where people can come and stay and use the dump points within them as well. So I look forward to the outcome of the strategic review with this added depth into it, but I don't want to preempt the outcome of it. Although prima facie it looks like it might be a good idea.
Thanks, Councillor Lang. Any other councillor? Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I support this notice of motion brought forward by Councillor Halstead. There's also the environmental impact of not supplying these types of facilities for our caravanning and camping community. And I think we'd be at risk to let this go on without making sure that we include it. In fact, it should be front and centre of a part of that strategic work to come. So I absolutely support it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasser. Any other councillor? If not, Councillor Halstead, you wish to speak, or we'll put it to a vote?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank councillors for their contributions. I agree with everything that's been raised, and I'm happy to put it to the vote. Thank you.
Okay, those councillors, those in favour? That's carried. That brings us to Mayor and Councillor reports, and I ask councillors that, as we've established for the virtual meetings, they forego their opportunity to present their reports, and they will be reported in the minutes along with my own report. But we have a couple of tributes to be made at this point in time, and I'll ask Councillor Lasser to start that process, please.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a bail for the former Casey Mayor and Councillor Amanda Stapleton. Amanda will be sadly missed by her family and friends. She was a great supporter to me during my first year of council as the mayor. Amanda reached out to myself and other new female councillors and mayors and offered her support and assistance in navigating the halls of council. She was committed to her community, and she was constantly focused on improving access and inclusion for all. She will be, sadly missed and by her community, her family and her friends. The second bail that I'd like to raise to the community today is the bail for Francesca Curtis, who passed away on Christmas Eve. She was a freedom fighter for the LGBTIQ+ community and women's equality groups. Her and her partner, Phyllis Papp's story has been recorded many times with TV, radio, and awards. In 2019, they received the Lifetime Achievement Award in Sydney. She was an activist, outspoken, funny, and above all, loved person. We know her story will live on with others. Francesca will be greatly missed by her partner of 50 years, Phyllis, and her friends and her family. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserre. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My tribute is to John Dixon, who died in January. Though I didn't know him personally, he is hang on. Didn't know him personally. He was a prominent figure of the Phillip Island community. And I thank the advertiser for the information I'm about to read into the minutes. John Wally Dixon was born in 1938, together with his twin brother, Laurie, and they attended the Wonthaggi Secondary High School, where John was a prefect. They are from a farming family, and their farming skills were very prominent, and the skill with a welder and grinder and drills, farming implements, they could repair almost anything and make all sorts of nifty contraptions, and they often assisted their neighbours with their endeavours in the field. His sporting and hobby achievements are considerable. He played the cornet with the Phillip Island Brass Band from his early 20s for 10 years. The band was in great demand, playing at the community gatherings, the Anzac Day services, the Worley Hospital birthdays, and many guest houses over cows in the tourist season. His sporting achievements are a huge part of his life. Together with his four brothers, they all participated in numerous teams events on the island. Especially, he played cricket for the Ventnor Phillip Island Cricket Club for 20 years, and he was the opening batsman. His football achievements caught the eye of scouts, and he even was asked to look at Footscray under Ted Whitten. However, the tyranny of distance, he had to turn down that offer. In recent years, he was accorded the honour by the Phillip Island Football Club for being named in the best ever team of the century. And John's enthusiasm for island football continued all his life. In 1980, when Phillip Island won the Alberton League Premiership, he pulled out his trumpet, and after every goal played, "It's a Grand Old Flag," the island's theme song. John met his wife in 1973 at the old Isle of Wight. They were married in 1978, and later he found fulfillment and joy with his grandchildren, Annabelle, Hamish, Hunter, Camille, and Henry. And just as the advertiser says at the end of the article, John died after a short illness post-New Year and was farewelled by many hundreds in early January from the Uniting Church in Cowes for burial at the Phillip Island Cemetery. John will be sorely missed by his family and the many friends he had made over his lifetime on Phillip Island. Vale, John Dixon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Tassari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to honour the passing of John Lindsay, OAM. Mr. Lindsay, as he was known, passed away last week, and his funeral was actually today. He's survived by his wife, Rayma, who's been married for 68 years. Mr. Lindsay was a woodwork teacher at the old tech school, and I have fond memories of Mr. Lindsay never giving up on my woodworking ability, even though I couldn't nail a nail. Mr. Lindsay was a fantastic member of the community. He was on a lot of committees and boards, including, but not naming all, Freemasons, the Miners Dispensary, the Wonthaggi Rovers Football Club, and Rose Lodge, with life memberships to the Wonthaggi Rovers, now Wonthaggi Power, and also the Rose Lodge. He was named the Rotary Citizen of the Year in 2009. He's survived by his beautiful family and their extended families, and the community is a little bit sadder and a little bit worse off, and certainly Wonthaggi is a little bit worse off for losing Mr. Lindsay, but we're certainly a lot better off for having him for so long. Rest in peace, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Councillor Tassari, and all of the councillors for those wonderful tributes that mark the passing of our wonderful citizens. That brings us to H.1, which is the planning application for 26 Maroubra Drive, Cape Woolamai, and I call on Mr. Sturton to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present planning application 190284 which seeks retrospective amendment to endorse plans under permit, allowing alteration to the existing dwelling at 26 Maroubra Drive, Cape Woolamai. The residence is within general residential zone with the Design and Development Overlay Schedule 1. The application was advertised and received 6 objections. The application has been considered and assessed against the Bass Coast Planning Scheme. It is recommended the Council resolve to issue a notice of decision to amend planning permit 190284 as per the conditions outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Have a councillor move that report, move the motion. Councillor Lasserve, a seconder. Councillor Lang. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I did write quite a lot of notes on this. It's one of those applications when it's done in retrospect, and our enforcement officers and team had to go out and do assessment and engage an independent surveyor to check on the complaint that it was over the height that risks were required. There are a number of factors in it. Look, it is a hard one. I believe that it wasn't deliberate. I would have liked to have been able to send a clear message to everybody building to stick to your plans. There probably is fault there somewhere, but that's for us not to deliberate on today. Today, the planning permit has been offered to be granted, and look, after the discussion with the officers, I think it wasn't a deliberate attempt. I would like to hasten to say that if there was anybody who thought that they could get away with it, our enforcement officers would certainly be obliged to come and visit you. We often have these issues about heights. There's been the necessary to remove the air conditioning box that was on the roof, which adds extra bulk, but yeah, at this stage, I'm happy to move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have nothing further to add.
Does any other councillor wish to speak on this motion? Councillor Halstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I feel the same as Councillor Lasserve. It's a difficult one. You know, that someone has gone into a great deal of finance and effort to build a property, and then to find out they've made a bit of an error must be terrible for them as well. I do, however, think that we need to consider as a council ways in which we can, I guess, whether it's through infringement or give some sort of fine to people who do build outside of the regulations, and whether that's through a requirement to pay a contribution to our developers fund, which we know the developers fund goes towards local community parks and tree planting, that sort of thing. So if builders are, or applicants are, breaching building guidelines, that maybe council could consider bringing something like that in to try and, you know, make sure that they're looking at their plans properly and they get it right the first time around. This would also obviously be a terrific outcome for the rest of the community, in that there will be some funds that can be spent on facilities and parks are in the local area. That's pretty much all I have to say on the matter. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I agree with all the councillors that it is a hard one, probably an emotional one. And I was one of the councillors that voted in favour originally when the height came in at 8 metres. I'd like to clearly state that there is no fault on behalf of the council or council officers. And in my opinion, the fault has been caused by one of the applicant's workers, whether it's designers, surveyors. Somebody's made a mistake there. And I'd state that it's not done intentionally, but a mistake has been made. I'm very much a believer in rules, and I fully supported the original application when they came in at the 8 metres, but because I'm a very much believer in rules, I will not be supporting this recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Lasserve, you wish to speak further or?
All the councillors have read the report and the recommendations. I'll put it to the councillors, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councillors, those in favour? Against? Carried. That brings us to H.2 Planning Application 20014120 Longfin Crescent San Remo, a development of 5 dwellings. Mr. Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present Planning Application 200141, which seeks to develop the land at 20 Longfin Crescent San Remo with 3 2-storey buildings that consist of 5 4-bedroom townhouses along with common property. This land is zoned General Residential Zone 1 and within proximity to the San Remo Activity Centre. The application was advertised and it received 6 objections. It was also called in by a councillor. The application has been considered and assessed against the Bass Coast Planning Scheme. It is recommended the council resolve to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit as per the conditions outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Can I have a councillor move the motion? Councillor Kent, seconded Councillor Lang. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. Look, I do support this recommendation. It has been a hot topic in San Remo. I note that the character of the design provides excellent setbacks from other properties in the area. And also the application fully supports council strategies for increasing housing density within San Remo, particularly within this development. There has been rumours and suggestions that it doesn't comply with the 173 agreement, but I would put to it, fellow councillors, that council officers have stated to us that this is not true. The proposed development is not considered to be contrary to the planning permit or on ongoing obligations of any sort within this area. I've looked at the design itself. 3 of the 5 townhouses have got excellent solar design. 2 of them, due to the size of the land and the position, don't have as good design. I do have one concern about the rubbish collection, but I think the future arrangement there, the people who buy into this with their body corporate can look at the issues involved with that. I'll leave it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Kent has summed it up really well. It does align well with our strategies to increase density in areas. It's also had some oversight from the estate committee that reviews the designs for new projects, and the committee, I think it's not called a committee, but I'm sorry, I can't think of the right word right now, has given their approval for the design as well.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Halstead. I gave you a combination of your names then. Councillor Halstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to state that this is part of an area that's had quite a tumultuous history with drainage, with the topography of the land, and some concerns around VCAT rulings and 173 agreements. It's been quite a lot for councillors to read through and get their head around, but grateful for the officers giving us the support we needed to sort of muddle our way through what has been quite a long process. And this one is separate to when I'm talking about VCAT and 173 agreements. That's been explained to me by the officers. My concern on this one is the waste management. I'm not comfortable supporting a recommendation that requires private waste collectors, private contractors to come in, as well as the owners of these units will not get away with not paying waste management to Bass Coast. So they'll be paying double waste management, one for a private contractor, one to Bass Coast. And for that reason, I won't be supporting it. I'm concerned about into the future, and we are considering possibly a fourth bin, or the state government is considering a fourth bin. And that concerns me as to where these people, if they do eventually make a determination that they want to use council services because they are paying for it, that where are all these bins going to be put out to be collected? Because there's no turning circle, and it has been confirmed by an officer that our trucks wouldn't be able to get in on site. So it worries me there'll be too many bins out on the street. So for that reason, I will be opposing the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. Is there any other councillor wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I've got concerns about I suppose that to some residents it would be an unusual private waste agreement, which would come in under a body corporate system. So I'd say that the occupants or the owners of those villas, townhouses would sign into that and understand that. My concern also was that could emergency services like an ambulance or fire truck get there? And I've been reassured by the officers that is the development would make sure that was able to happen. Like they will. That's got to be a part of the agreement. So it's a messy one. It's been ongoing. There's been a lot of concern about it, but it is infill. And if we are growing our community, as we've stated, we do need multiple types of housing. And I think there are a number of that type of buildings happening and are consistent with that in the local area. So, look, I'll be supporting it on this occasion. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Kent, do you wish to reply or put the to a vote?
Yeah, just a quick one, Mayor Whelan. I accept that there has been quite a few issues in this estate, especially connected to heavy rainfall, stormwater and blocked drains and earth not being moved correctly. But it shouldn't be attached to this development, in my opinion. And look, I say to people, a Section 32, when you buy a property, that will clearly state the situation if you're buying into one of these townhouses. And as I say, buy, beware always. Have the full facts before you commit. But I also personally believe that a good body corporation will resolve the issues there too. So let's put it to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. We'll put that to a vote then. Those in favour? Against? Carried. All right, that brings us to the next one, H.2 Planning Application for Unit 4-6 Cyclone Street, Wonthaggi, use of the land for a restricted recreational facility (gym) and waiver of car parking requirements under clause 5206. Mr. Sturton, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present Planning Application 210214, pardon me, which seeks to use the land at Unit 4-6 Cyclone Street, Wonthaggi, for the purposes of a restricted recreational facility and also a waiver of car parking requirements. This land is located within the Industrial 1 zone. The application was advertised and it received 11 objections. The application has been considered and assessed against the Bass Coast planning scheme. It's recommended the council resolve to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit as per the restrictions and the conditions outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Have a councillor move that motion. Councillor Lang seconded. Councillor Halstead. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Far be it from me to get in the way of a new business looking to provide health and recreation services to our community, unless I have some valid reasons to do so. However, the objections to this application do underscore the need for council to explore better parking arrangements and parking facilities for the users in Cyclone Street to prevent the loss of amenity for the residents in the neighbouring Poplar Street. To address the increasing parking problems with Cyclone Street, I've engaged with council officers to explore some solutions there. However, council officers' reports and traffic studies on this particular planning application do not show that the traffic and parking challenges are going to be as a direct result of the introduction of this new business. Traffic surveys by council and by the applicant also show that the peak usage of F45, when it's at peak usage, there will be ample parking in the parking lot as well as on-street parking due to the off-peak hours of operation. Most people know the history of this site. A couple of years ago, there would be about 60 patrons, small patrons attending the indoor children's play centre Flip and Fun at any one time. And council had provided a parking waiver to that business, which saw much higher parking pressures during peak usage times arguably compared to what is proposed now. F45's peak business usage will be in off-peak times with lower patronage than the previous users of the site. And council is putting conditions including patron limits, limited hours of operation and noise controls to ensure that adjoining businesses and neighbouring residences are not detrimentally affected. And the business will have set hours of operations as part of those conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Halstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I congratulate Councillor Lang, who has addressed everything really that I was also thinking in relation to this application. Whether council's able to make the parking there a little more clear with signage, I'm not sure, but I agree with everything that Councillor Lang has said, and I'll be supporting the recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Halstead. Councillor Tessari.
Thanks, Mayor Whelan. Councillor Halstead stole a little bit of my thunder just then. I have concerns for this application. While I do agree it's fantastic to see a health and fitness establishment open up, and that is technically the right spot for this, I do have concerns with the parking situation in that street. Going down that street regularly, it is a nightmare. The restrictions that's been put on this application, I'm comfortable with those. I guess it's a little bit on the Shire, the council itself, to make sure we police these restrictions and look at some of the options that we can do regarding some signage down that street, because it is a nightmare of a parking area, and the only concern I have is regarding the parking. So hopefully we can get through that with signage and monitoring, and everyone's happy. Thank you, Mayor Whelan.
Thank you, Councillor Tessari. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I too have concerns about the car parking, and it concerns me even more when a local councillor uses the expression nightmare. But look, I think all councillors here support all businesses, and we want to see Wonthaggi commercial area just keep on improving, but not. We don't want to see one area being to the detriment of others. Look, I'll be supporting this recommendation, but I note strongly that they are restricted to 20 participants, and I would suggest to any members of the public who are affected, if they are affected, that that's one area that they should be looking at to contact the council about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it seems to be the topic, doesn't it, the parking. But this business, and I'll support, local businesses, and it's great that we've got a new one coming on board, has got an internal car parking facility for those businesses. So it's not on the street parking. I think the congestion in that street, and I do use some of those businesses in that street as well, is that it's that popular street that is creating a lot of the congestion where people are parking either side of the road. So it is just about patience when you're parking. But I believe that they've got it covered. It has been used as a large communal facility, as in the child-friendly play centre that it was. And so the traffic was kept within that car park. So I'm happy to support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The applicants actually did contact me, and to my satisfaction reassured me that they wish to comply with the officer's recommendations here, and as a result, I am happy to support this application.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Lang, do you wish to close or put it to a vote?
I'll put it to a vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, councillor, we're putting it to a vote. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to H.2 Planning Application for 88 to 89 Watt Street, Wonthaggi. Mr. Sturton, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present planning application 210351, which seeks to use the land located at 88 to 89 Watt Street, Wonthaggi, for on-site consumption of liquor in association with the proposed diner and pool hall. The land is located in the Commercial 1 zone of the Wonthaggi Activity Centre. The application was advertised and received 10 objections. The application has been considered and assessed against the Bass Coast Planning Scheme, and it is recommended that Council resolve to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit as per the conditions outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Have a councillor move the report, please. Move the motion, please. Councillor Lark. And seconded, Councillor Lark.
No, I do have an alternative motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, can you tell us what it is without actually speaking to it, please, Councillor Lark? Have we got it? We'll put it up on the screen, please.
That in relation to planning permit application 210351, it is on screen, in association with the food and drink premises, diner and pool hall at 88 to 89 Watt Street, Wonthaggi, Council resolves to issue a notice of refusal on the following grounds, which are set out below in the points 1 to 5.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Is there a seconder to that resolution? Councillor King. Councillor Lark.
Thank you. I think we all know that alcohol is associated with a wide range of health and social problems in Wonthaggi, probably more so in Wonthaggi than any other part of Bass Coast, with excessive alcohol consumption a far higher percentage compared to the Victorian average. There is also a higher percentage of licensed venues, 24 venues as at 31st of January 2022, according to a recent report by the Victorian Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation. And that too is high relative to the Victorian average. These matters are documented in our community profile that can be accessed at Council. The proposed venue is less than 50 metres from the Caledonian Hotel complex, and it's well established that the density of alcohol outlets is related to poorer health outcomes and increased rates of assault and family violence. This application is not a bad application, but I'm talking about the impact on our social health in Wonthaggi in particular, targeted to Wonthaggi, having regard to the significant number of outlets per head of population in Wonthaggi itself. I think the particular application poses an unreasonable impact on the amenity of the surrounding area. It doesn't set a precedent. It's just an opportunity for Council to take a stand on alcohol in the specific circumstances of an overloaded community with licensed outlets and the associated social problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I support Councillor Lark in his endeavours. Our own health and wellbeing work shows that, unfortunately, Bass Coast, the percentages are higher in Bass Coast, above the average for family violence and alcohol-related issues. And unfortunately, for those areas that have high percentages, it's local government and state government that have got to pick up all the problems that are related to those issues. Look, I enjoy playing pool myself, no problems, but I find that as a councillor that we have to start addressing these issues within our community. And this is probably a stance, a place to start at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Is there another councillor, Councillor Tassari?
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I won't be supporting this alternative motion put forward by Councillor Lark. I struggle with a lot of things that have been suggested. I mean, it'll destroy the amenity of the surrounding area. The building's been empty for the last 6 or 7 years. The community have been screaming out to get something in this building. When the photos of the diner have been shown on Facebook, the community are up in arms and wrapped with the look of the venue. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is an application for a pool hall and a diner, a licensed diner. It's not for a pub. We've had mention of the mental health and the health and well-being. Well, this is a diner, and this is an opportunity to get people out of their lounge rooms and go and enjoy a social game of pool with other people and enjoy a meal and a drink. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and start, I guess, policing what we have no right to do. So I won't be supporting this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Tassari. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be supporting this alternate motion either. As Councillor Lark has said, that there are, a number of outlets within Wonthaggi that contain poker machines. I mean, if you're talking about a blight on the community, there's the amount of losses that gambling contributes to the degradation of our community. It's only part of it. And you can't say that all the people that play poker machines are alcoholics, or they may be drug addicts or anything else. I think that this pool hall, as Councillor Tassari said, this whole room vacation facility that's vacant for so many years now, and people wanted to know what we're going to do about it. Well, here we are. We've got an application in front of us. Couldn't be in a better spot, right opposite the police station. The police haven't objected to. So, I don't think we should be afraid of it. I think we should be embracing it, the fact that it will be a recreational facility. It's a world-renowned sport, poker and snooker. It's certainly a sport that women can play. They need to be able to feel safe. Young people can play it. It's played in pubs. There's been a pool competition in the Wonthaggi district for many years that have got male teams and combined male-female teams and all-female teams. So I don't think we should be afraid of some kind of social reckoning through alcohol. I think that we should be embracing it for the opportunities that it will create in Wonthaggi for employment and social activity. So I certainly won't be supporting the alternative. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, I'd be concerned that if we can't open a liquor licence across the road from a police station, that can't be undertaken safely. I'd be very concerned for our community. Therefore, I wouldn't be supporting this motion. I'd also like to point out that the police have not provided a submission to council on this application, and that opportunity was given to them.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other councillor? If not, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I look at this alternative a bit like the betting ads during the football and the cricket, where we say, oh, really ruin the sports, And that is a social and moral issue as opposed to the practical issues of what's is and what's not allowed. And I think we have to be guided by what is allowed and not, or what is not allowed in this situation. And after a lot of consideration, I can't support the amendment at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. That's just, it's about, not almost any other councillor, I should say. No, good. So, Councillor Lark, you wish to respond?
Yes, I do. Firstly, it will be the Victorian Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation that will make the decision in terms of whether to grant a licence. And the police department have elected to lodge their concerns or issues with that particular body rather than be concerned with the local permit application. So the fact that they haven't objected through the permit application should have no regard to whether or not this licence goes ahead. The clear issue is, and the evidence shows, that it's well established that the density of alcohol outlets is related to poorer health outcomes and increased rates of assault and family violence. We're adding to that 24 outlets, venues that we have within Wonthaggi, and we're putting at risk our community that we're overpopulating venues of this nature and liquor outlets that lead to these social aspects. So it's a challenge for council to perhaps look at the bigger picture and consider the health and well-being of the community on a much more strategic, imperative situation than just the fact there's an individual application, or we like liquor or we don't like liquor. The evidence shows that Wonthaggi is awash of liquor, and we should be voting against further 300 patron organisations coming into our town to put our community at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. So I'll put that resolution.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a point of clarification for the officers? For just what Councillor Lark just said. If we agree to this, can that be over? Can acceptance of this motion be overturned by the Liquor Control Board?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if council were to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for this application, then the applicant would then go to the VCGLR for their final approval. So the ultimate licence is not decided by council. This is a planning permit decision. The liquor licence will be decided by the VCGLR.
Thank you.
Clear on that. Okay, thank you. So we're about to put the motion, which is to refuse the application. Those in favour of the motion? Okay, those against? The motion is lost. Which brings us back to the substantive motion from the report. Can I have a councillor move the motion from the report? Councillor Lang, seconded Councillor Tassari. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Liquor licences in Wonthaggi come in all shapes and sizes, and the density of the liquor licences that are being provided across Wonthaggi include packaged liquor, and even Coffee Collective has a liquor licence. So the density of liquor licences needs to be taken into consideration to the variety of those licences. And I dare say that packaged liquor can cause significant issues, contributing issues to the health and well-being of the community. However, when I first saw this application, I did notice that they had originally applied from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. However, this has been corrected to reflect more appropriate times of service of alcohol with food required to be available at all times. and the council has put in place a raft of conditions to protect the amenity of the area. For example, live music can only be played outdoors until 9 p.m. Parking pressures are addressed with undercroft parking, and the style of the diner is designed to be family friendly with pool. And I think council would have challenges arguing this permit should not be granted because there is no evidence that a pool hall diner would impact the future amenity of Wonthaggi, highlighting the fact that it is across the road from the local police station. And I would welcome in the future some exploration and reviews of liquor licences from the BCGLR in Wonthaggi to address the concerns that Councillor Lark has. And I do not want to diminish those concerns. I just don't believe that rejecting this application is a favourable option.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Tesari.
I didn't start on mute, Mayor Whelan. I just picked myself up. Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I will be supporting this motion. As I mentioned earlier on, the town has been screaming for something to go into this building for so long now. I'm not a pool player. I can't hit a white ball onto a coloured ball to save myself. So it's not something for me, but it's certainly, I look forward to going to the diner and having an option of where you can eat around Wonthaggi, and I look forward to going to the diner and having a drink with my wife, a glass of wine. So certainly I'm not trying to downplay what Councillor Lark has said about the alcohol situation, and I support Councillor Lang with asking the Gaming and Alcohol Licensing Committee to come along and have a look at the situation. But I don't want to lose the fact that this is a diner and a pool hall. It's not a pub. So we're grown-ups, and in moderation, most people can enjoy a meal and a drink and a game of pool. And I don't want to see this establishment knocked out because of I guess the low percentage of people that do the wrong thing. And so I certainly will be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tesari. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Lang, would you like to respond or put the resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have very fond memories of playing pool straight after school, high school in Wonthaggi, Northgate. So I look forward to the councillors considering this so I can have a shot.
Okay, councillors, we'll put that resolution. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried. All right, which brings us to H5, response to petition to create a short bike path in Shearwater Estate in Cowes. Mr. Sturton, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide a response to a petition received at the council meeting on 15th of September 2021 that proposed to build a short bike path in the Shearwater Estate in Cowes between Shelley Court and Shoalhaven Road. The report notes that an investigation was conducted by council officers in relation to this proposal that has been found to be an unsuitable option and would provide an unsatisfactory risk to the community by way of terminating a linking path on the apex of a roadway. It is proposed that council adopt the recommendation as outlined within the report and both thank and advise the head petitioner of its decision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Will we have a councillor move the motion? Councillor Bauer, seconded. Councillor Kent. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one I've thought long and hard, and it's been a backward and forward both sides of the people from the petition and against the petition. And I've come down to agree with the council officer's assessment of the pathway. The original reason why the petitioners went, they wanted to have some golf carts go to the golf course, and they are under their own power. They can use the road and they can get there anyway. The design of the footpaths there really do not lend themselves to be rejigged into a shared footpath. And this is only one consideration for the overall good of the community of that estate. And so it's for the greater good of all over the consideration of a few, and therefore I'm in favour of the council officer's report.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Kent.
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? If not, Councillor Bauer, are you happy that we put it to a vote?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd put it straight to a vote.
Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to H6, administrative update to dogs off-leash dates. Ms Kennedy to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council adopted the Domestic Animal Management Plan at the October 2021 Council meeting. At the December 2021 Council meeting, a notice of motion was presented and included amendments to the dates for dogs off-leash areas. This report recommends that two of the recommendations in the notice of motion presented at the December meeting be amended to read: 1, that council to allow access to off-leash dog beaches annually from the 1st of February to the 30th of November, effective from February 2022. And 2, from the 1st of December to the 31st of January, dogs must be on a leash on the dog off-leash areas from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This will ensure the dates are enforceable and officers can commence amending all relevant signs in the municipality as well as gazette the new dates. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Kennedy. Have a councillor move the motion. Councillor Bauer, seconded. Councillor Halstead. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being the person that brought the original motions to the chamber in December, I think it's appropriate that I move these. These are just administrative changes to bring the originally adopted motions into line. It does not affect the original motions. It's almost an administrative adjunct to that. And I'd like to reassure the people that cheered when the motions were passed that nothing has changed, just the timing and how we do it. I would like to also take this opportunity to thank Ms. Kennedy and her team, who have been very productive in the way that they're implementing the changes, and the dispensers and the signs will be up shortly. And I commend the motion to the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Halstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to ask a question before I address the recommendation of Ms. Kennedy, if I can.
Go ahead.
Given the signs are still up, the previous signs, are dog owners allowed to walk their dogs at this time, which is in contravention of what is written on the signs at this point in time?
Councillor Ms Kennedy. Yes.
Through the Mayor, officers are aware that there's an expectation that these controls would come into effect as was originally in the notice of motion for the 1st of Feb. Officers at the time advised that this was going to be difficult to meet those timelines. So in terms of currently, we are working to just work with people and be a bit, I suppose the word would be lenient through this period. As soon as a decision is made today, we will get on with gazetting those dates and getting the signs up. And once the signs are up, they will then become enforceable.
So even though it's a resolution of the council from the 1st of Feb, because the signs still remain the old regulation, that means that the community needs to follow the old regulation at this time. Is that right?
That is yes, that is right. But we are aware that there may have been some confusion in the community, and so our officers have been working with the community to explain that and been a bit, I suppose, what you call flexible and practical through this period, this changeover period.
So the key point, Ms Kennedy, is that it hasn't been gazetted at this point in time.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so until it's gazetted, it's the old regulations until it's gazetted and the signs go up. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. It has been a bit of confusion in the community, and I'm pleased to hear that officers have been advised that that's the case, because I have seen some dogs on my walk who are enjoying themselves, and it's really exciting to see. So I hope councillors who may not have been on a dog beach might take the opportunity to go down and take your shoes off, walk in the sand, and see how the dogs do behave on beaches. I was on the beach this morning with my girl, and I was really happy to see most of Bass Coast dog owners are very responsible. So, yes, I will be supporting this recommendation, and I thank Councillor Bauer for bringing it to the chamber in the first place. Thank you.
Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, Councillor Bauer, shall we? Councillor Kent. Oh, I've got two. All right, Councillor Kent and Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. Being a dog owner, I look forward to this legislation being gazetted. But please, everyone, we want this to succeed. So for the months of, where are we? December and January, I would hope that all people, dog owners, dog walkers, and just the general public will call out those people who don't abide by the rules, being those people who will allow their dogs off leash between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. when they should be on the leash. Because we can all lose for these small minority of people who don't abide by the rules. And as a dog owner, I will call out people who I see letting their dogs run between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. for those 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In principle, I will not be supporting this motion. At the time, I thought Councillor Bauer's motion was poorly drafted and undertaken in a rush, and it's required council officer intervention to come in and clean it up. The other concern is that it was undertaken without the proper consultation that we.
Can I just put in a point of order there, Mr. Mayor?
Just what's the point of order, Councillor Halstead?
Just that officers have had to come in and clean up. Councillor Bauer is entitled to move a notice of motion.
What's your point of order?
Well, Councillor Lang is making. Councillor Lang is insinuating that Councillor Bauer has caused the officers to run around in the background and clean up the mess. I don't think that that's...
Can I pull you up there? You're going to the language that's being used. If that's the case, your point of order needs to be
Well, the
fine.
point of order is that what's actually occurring, Mr. Mayor? Are the officers, do they consider it to be running around cleaning up Councillor Bauer's mess? It's a resolution of, Mr. Mayor, it's a
order to argue the point.
It's a resolution, Mr. Mayor, it's a resolution of this council, and therefore
order, call everyone to order. A point of order has to be specific and it has to be procedural to the or relevant to the local law. So I'm happy to accept a point of order that you're not happy with the language, and I'll ask Councillor Lang to take that on board.
Thank you,
So
Mr. Mayor.
Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll withdraw the comment on clean it up, and I will say that it required council intervention to come and clarify it for the community. I would also like to sympathise with all the stakeholders and community members who were not consulted in the process that led up to this change. And I am fully committed to the dog working group that will be undertaken through the domestic and animal management plan. And I would also like to highlight that if the dog working group and public consultation following through the DAMP makes recommendations similar, if not the same as what is in this motion, I will wholeheartedly support them. But I won't support them at this stage when it means that I haven't engaged in the consultation process that all councillors agree to through the DAMP.
Okay, any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. Look, my concern, I won't be supporting it because it hasn't really clarified the point of what happens at Easter when we have those extended holidays. So at this stage, it's a free-for-all, and we've just, as Councillor Lang has said, we've got a DAMP, and so I'm really after that last meeting with the notice of motion. Thank officers for clarifying, but I won't be supporting this one.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, I'll call on Councillor Bauer to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I challenge Councillor Lang's perception of the way this has come through. It's not, and I don't accept her assertions and I thank Councillor Halstead for bringing the point of order. The other thing I'd like to draw the attention to is this does not change the intention of the motions passed in December. It just tidies up the start and stop times. And for Councillor Lasserve's question, I believe this will be captured in the Easter period when it's because it goes from February to December. If we don't pass this, that means the original motions stand, and the council officers that we've been advised by the council officers that they will not enforce it. So it's just an limbo situation. This is just an administrative cleanup of the situation. And I do ask the councillors to support this so that we can move forward in a clean and structured way to bring in the dogs off leash motions that were passed in December.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. So we'll put that motion. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried.
Request for a division, Mr. Mayor.
Request for a division. Those in favour? Councillor Whelan, Councillor Halstead, Councillor Bauer, Councillor Lai, Councillor Tassari, Councillor Kent. Those against? Councillor Lang and Councillor Lasserve. So the motion is carried. H7, Sport and Recreation Victoria funding applications. Ms Kennedy to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval to submit 2 funding applications to Sport and Recreation Victoria through the 2021-2022 Local Sports Infrastructure Fund within the female-friendly facilities stream and the community facility stream. The female-friendly facility stream will assist in funding the delivery of the Wonthaggi Netball Pavilion and play-space project with a funding request of $800,000. And the community facility stream will assist in funding the Kilcunda Foreshore Skate and Play project with a funding request of $250,000. Without grant funding, projects such as those proposed would not be possible through Council's capital program for many years. The contribution of grant funding, if successful, will allow Council to provide high-quality facilities to the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Kennedy. Can I have a councillor move that motion? Councillor Halstead, seconded Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Halstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank the officers for putting this recommendation up. It's an exciting time for both projects, and specifically I'd like to make mention of the Kilcunda skate ramp, which the community have been excited about for a long time now. They've played a significant role in the community consultation and the design phase, so they are all waiting patiently for the ability to build. So this is the first step in being able to do that, and I really welcome the recommendation by the officers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. Councillor Lasserve.
No, nothing really further, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I just wanted to point out to the importance to the community for the community to have shovel-ready design projects. As in these circumstances, these were the 2 projects that were designed that have been shovel-ready and designed, and they were the only 2 projects that we could push forward. Let's hope in the future budget we have many more projects that are ready to go.
Thank you to Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, back to Councillor Halstead. Do you wish to respond or put it to a vote, Councillor Halstead?
Happy to put to the vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we'll put that H7. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to H8 Kilcunda Community Hall lease, and Mr. Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide advice in response to notice of motion adopted at the 15th of December 2021 meeting regarding the granting of a long-term lease to the Kilcunda Community Association. The report considers the context of similar leases issued under Council's leasing and licensing policy, as well as the key role the association has in the community and in the development of the Kilcunda Community Hall. It is recommended that a 4-year lease with extension option to 31 March 2030 be granted to the Kilcunda Community Association. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, can I have a councillor move the resolution? Quick off on the draw there, Councillor Halstead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move an alternative that the governance have if they could put it up on the screen.
Okay, we'll just wait for that. Okay, just tell us about it without speaking to it, please, Councillor Halstead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is asking council to consider a lease agreement of 20 years. That lease agreement will include conditions that will reflect changes over that time in any legislation or council policy, including that guidelines of DELP. And it will mean taking it to community engagement process because the lease is over 10 years.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Halstead. Is there a seconder for that resolution? Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Halstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Kilcunda Community Association were the founders of the Lobster Festival in the mid-1980s, and it was this festival that raised the funds to be able to build the Kilcunda Community Hall. So after 13 years of community commitment and a great deal of lobbying, the Shire gave permission to build the structure now known as the Kilcunda Community Hall on the former Mechanic Hall site. They were really excited to have raised enough to work closely with Bass Coast Shire on design and funding to deliver the project that was open in 1994. The breakdown of the funding was as follows. The Community Association, formerly known as Kilcunda Community Development Association, contributed $90,000 towards the build and also took up a loan that was facilitated by council of $30,000, which was paid back in full in 1997, and the Bass Coast Shire funded $30,000. So what an incredible achievement by the local community who, in fact, pretty much built it themselves, with $120,000 being the lion's share of a $150,000 project at the time. This is the only location for the community to come together in this gorgeous seaside location of Kilcunda. Since 1994, the community have maintained the property, upgraded and repaired it whenever this was required, and have never held a lease to do so. Council is now requesting they sign a lease, and this would be appropriate. However, the association would like a long-term lease to provide security of tender where they do plan to spend significant funds into the future. This is a great deal for council and one we should be happy to provide. An ideal tenant offering security and commitment to maintaining the site, and you only have to visit the hall to see how loved it is. So I hope councillors will look at what's being offered here and support the alternative. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, our community and public halls are a great asset to each of their communities, and we've got many volunteers that work to have these assets in their community, and they're a great focal point for their activities. Kilcunda, as Councillor Halstead's just read out really their history of that, have worked very hard and have come to the councillors, the ward councillors, and seeking our support in a longer term lease so that they have certainty. They're keen and up and raring to go to raise more money to support their hall. So it's not like they're a diminishing committee or anything like that. They're an active, hard-working committee, and by offering them this long-term lease, it shows our commitment to them. I don't think they're going to disappear in a hurry. You know, they're there doing their job, and they've run lobster festivals and other fundraising events there to make this happen. So I'm happy to support the alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor Kent.
Mayor Whelan, I have a question for council officers, if possible. Thank you.
Go ahead.
The Kilcunda Community Hall sits on Crown land, and the council is the committee of management. If one of these recommendations got up today, and I'm not preempting that, but the tenant decides, no, I'm not going to sign that lease, whatever it is, can the council officers explain to me what the next step would be? Does council run with it? Who runs with it? I just don't know the situation.
Been practising your curveball, have you, Councillor Kent?
Well, Mayor Whelan, I don't mind stating that we're dealing with a strong community group here with strong personalities, and depending on the outcome, they may just stand their ground. And I'm just wondering what the next step would be. That's all.
It was designed to buy a bit more time. Councillor, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council officers would work to try and resolve the lease proactively with the community association. Depending on how they accept and how they respond, one avenue may be to go to the ultimate landowner, which would be DELP, and discuss possible actions with them. However, it really depends on how the conversations go.
Now, do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Kent?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Tassari.
I'm just seeking some clarification now from Councillor Kent. Is there a threat by the community group that if the original recommendation goes through, that they won't sign the lease? I'm a little bit perplexed by your request there, and sort of not sure where it goes. I sort of almost feel like if there is that out in the community, that it's a bit of a push us against the wall type scenario. So I'm seeking clarification, Councillor Kent.
Mayor Whelan, I don't mind answering that question. It's just that we know this has been a long time to resolve this matter, and that we all know that several proposals have been put to this group, and they've been knocked back each time. So at some point, this has to come to an end, and I'm just wondering who ends it. And I thought it would be with DELP.
And that will take that on face value, I think, and move on. Did you wish to...
Can I make it quite clear? I'm not suggesting to any community group to take action whatsoever. I just want this.
Yeah. Councillor, sorry, you wish to speak on the thing? No, you're happy. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, I'll return it to Councillor Halstead to either close the debate or we'll put the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The association has continued to invest significant time and effort to the upkeep of the site, and are still offering to continue to invest significant funds for future upgrades. And I think what they're seeking is just that security. They don't want to go into, putting in significant funds for upgrades without the security of tenure. And that's pretty much what this is all about for them. So I hope that councillors will support this alternative. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Halstead. So we'll put that motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? It's carried. It's carried. Okay, which brings us to H9, lease of the Kilcunda Caravan Park. Mr. Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is to present the outcome of the EOI process to determine the preferred tenant for the lease and operation of Kilcunda Caravan Park and to conclude the statutory process regarding community engagement regarding the lease proposal. Council has undertaken an open, transparent and competitive EOI process to determine the best value tenant to lease and operate the caravan park. The submissions have been evaluated fairly and equally, with the process overseen by an external probity auditor. The evaluation identified Holiday Retreats Rivergum Pty Ltd as presenting the best value to council under the selection criteria. Holiday Retreats Rivergum are experienced operators who have presented a vision for the caravan park, backed by a program of capital works and an increase in the annual rental amount. Council invited submissions on the proposed lease in accordance with Section 115 of the Local Government Act. No submissions were received. It is recommended council issue the lease to Holiday Retreats Rivergum for a period of 20 years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. I have a councillor move the motion. Councillor Halstead seconded. Councillor Lasser. Councillor Halstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What an exciting time for Kilcunda at the moment. There's so many projects planned and are really close to commencement. The commercial confidence being shown in the area by Retreats Rivergum with committing a $2 million upgrade is promising for the local economy and will complement the projects council has planned. It's pleasing the plans for an upgrade of the site are sensitive to the environment, inclusive of culture, and offer some of the best views in the state of Victoria. The only issue that I would like to address, which is the elephant in the room, is the loss of the tennis court that has remained a part of the leased site and therefore not an appropriate location for community recreation. However, I think this may offer an opportunity for council to consult with Kilcundians about their recreational needs and identify a more appropriate site, maybe close to the planned new Kilcunda skate park could be an option. So I support this recommendation and I wish the tenant all the very best. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we know, this is an iconic site, and we've had the opportunity to visit the site, and I certainly support the recommendation and congratulate the winning contractor or tenant to now move forward with their securing the site and continuing on with it. I look forward to an upgrade. I mean, it's certainly, when you looked at it, it does need an upgrade. In keeping with our tourism strategy, it's about bringing people to Best Coast and having a look at all the great natural assets that we've got. So, yes, I'm really pleased with this one and I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lasser. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to clarify that if Councillor Halstead came this way, she might find that Wonthaggians also have a great view from where they are as well.
Very.
We're getting parochial. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? No. Well, back to Councillor Halstead. Do you wish to respond or put it to the vote?
I'll just quickly, Mr. Mayor, yes, Councillor Lang, I do know the views from the RACV Club are pretty sensational, and other parts of your beautiful ward. I have had a holiday home there, so I share that, but I would also encourage everyone, if they get the opportunity, including people who live in Bass, maybe the Phillip Islanders might like to go to this caravan park. Spend a little bit of money for a special night with your lady, because the views from there are absolutely incredible. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll hand it over to the vote. Thank you.
Councillor Halstead thinks that's probably wrong on so many levels, but we'll just pass on to a vote on that motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, which brings us to H10, Seneca Estate Proposed Road Discontinuance. Mr. Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to consolidate land parcels within scenic estate for ease of management into the future through discontinuance of roads within the estate. The roads are no longer required for general public access. The report provides a detailed explanation of the background and benefits of discontinuing the roads to support the Scenic Estate Conservation Reserve, including how this initiative aligns to the Natural Environmental Strategy 2016 to 2026. It is recommended that Council resolves to undertake the formal road discontinuance procedures under the Local Government Act. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I have a councillor move this motion? Councillor Tassari, seconded Councillor Bauer. Councillor Tassari.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. This has been going on for a long time, and this is almost the final procedural thing that needs to be done for this little area, and I look forward to it being ticked off.
Thank you, Councillor Tassari. Councillor Bauer.
I think Councillor Brett Tassari has summed it up in one good sentence, and thank goodness we're finally getting there, and we've taken back, in inverted commas, the farm. I fully support this motion.
Okay, any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? If not, Councillor Tassari, happy to put it to a vote?
Put it to a vote.
Okay, those in favour? That's carried, which brings us to H11 2021-22 Quarterly Performance Report, October-December 2021. Mr. Mack to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides Council and the community with an update on the second quarter performance for our annual action plan, capital works program and the financial results, and includes forecasts for full year's results. Strong progress on the annual action plan is being made, with 5 actions complete, 17 on track, 2 needing attention and 1 due to commence in the third quarter. Noting the 2 needing attention require input from external parties. Council's forecast net result is favourable to budget by 5.1 million, with a 13.6 million surplus forecast for the end of year June 2022, mainly due to recognition of capital grants. Once the impact of grants and contributions are removed, Council's adjusted underlying result is forecast to reflect a $3 million deficit. The forecast expenditure for Council's capital works program delivery is 53.7 million, which is 87.9% of the current year and carryover project budget, noting some of the balances due to phasing of multi-year projects. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Can I have a councillor move the motion from the report? Councillor Lang, seconded. Councillor Lasser. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's great to see the progress being made toward the council plan, with 25 activities and initiatives identified through the development of the annual action plan. 5 actions have been completed, including setting the strategic direction for council through the development of the council plan, improving community health and wellbeing by developing the Healthy Communities Plan, completing the Access and Equity and Inclusion Plan, also known as the Disability Action Plan, to reduce and remove barriers experienced by people with a disability, promoting responsible pet ownership through a revised domestic animal management plan, enhanced recreational and leisure opportunities with the renewal of the Grantville seawall from the jetty to the boat ramp. And just another one to add to that was the raft of new requirements under the Local Government Act that Council was required to do. So our capital works program is forecasting to deliver our largest ever capital work expenditure in a year at over $50 million, with several highlights this quarter, including works beginning at the Cows Cultural and Community Centre site, 1.5 million of road renewal works in Value Street, Wonthaggi, and nearing completion of the 4.6 million Pioneer Bay Road and drainage upgrade works. It's great to see that Council continues to be in the low risk category classified by the Victorian Auditor General, which basically means that Council is able to pay existing debts as they fall due. And the adjustment of timelines for multi-year projects has changed the balance expenditure, but it's set to deliver 87.9% of projects projected to be completed.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to say that I'm pleased that the Audit and Risk Committee have overviewed this report, and I'm happy to accept the recommendation. I think Councillor Lang has really covered the performance report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor Halstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions for Mr. Sturton, if I could, in relation to the housing strategy. I notice is only 10% through at this stage. I just wanted to ask if the strategy has been held up while we've been awaiting the work of the state government's distinctive area landscapes. And also, when do we move to the next stage, and what is the next stage?
Mr. Sturton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the quarterly report talks to, there's actually two projects within that item, both the housing strategy and the neighbourhood character study. So the housing strategy itself looks at the supply and demand of available land across the Shire. It's a settlement planning document that does link to the, or will link to the Statement of Planning Policy from the Distinctive Areas and Landscapes project, which is being conducted by the state. The neighbourhood character study itself considers the look and feel of our neighbourhoods and townships and a more localised elements such as design controls and landscaping requirements. So both together, these projects work in unison to balance the need for growth with existing character of our townships. The background report for both projects are underway, which indicates the 10% figure in the quarterly report. Whilst this background work is ongoing, the next stage of works will be draft reports, and we will be working in line with the draft Statement of Planning Policy once that is released from the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning. Once we've got those draft reports, we'll conduct thorough community consultation before amending those draft reports into a final document, which will be endorsed by Council. They're both large projects, so whilst they have commenced this year, they've been phased over 2 years in acknowledgement of the amount of work that needs to get done, and we're anticipating that they will be complete next financial year, which will be post the implementation of the distinctive area and landscape as well, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Councillor
Thank
Halstead.
you, thank you, Mr. Sturton. That's really great information to have. I just see that housing strategy as a really important document moving forward, and the longer we're waiting, the more our communities are being whittled away, or what we perceive to be, the important parts anyway, with township boundaries and so on and so forth. In relation to the report itself, I just wanted to give special mention that I'm really pleased the Shetland Heights Road footpath went through, because the San Remo Secondary College has now opened. I'm told there are about 400 students, and that means that they can travel safely along that road. Also, the same as Councillor Lang pointed out, the Grantville seawall and the Pioneer Road and drainage works, which I understand there have been some minor defects reported to officers through the residents, and I understand that those will be addressed before sign off. So I'm really happy to see that all those projects have moved forward and are complete. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lark.
Over time, I've expressed significant concerns about the financial position of council, notwithstanding the tick off by the Auditor General. Now, I'll just raise two issues. Firstly, council's financial performance in respect to its underlying operating result, which is a $3 million forecast for a deficit for the quarter. That to me highlights, in my opinion, the need for significant operating budget reform ongoing. So that's the first one. And secondly, I continue to highlight what I believe is a capital expenditure budget which is flawed, that lacks accountability to deliver projects on time and within budget. They're the two areas that are highlighted in this particular quarter, and I look forward to some reform going forward in those two spaces.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I will be supporting this recommendation, but it's probably a little bit of a follow on from Councillor Lark that we have received briefings about producing on time, and that we've probably got a 2-year period where we're going to make some great improvements. It's been promised to us. So look, I'm just holding the council accountable for these projects being done on time over the next 2 years, and I look forward to the council achieving that, hopefully sooner than 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, Councillor Lang, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to highlight that the deficit in this quarter is largely attributable to higher than budget workers' compensations during insurance payments following the dissolution of the Municipal Association of Victoria Work Care Scheme, which was not as a result of any council decision, and increased waste related and development planning expenditure. So everything looks really healthy, and it is audited and reviewed by the Audit and Risk Committee, which has significant amounts of expertise in it. And the 2 projects out of the 25 needing attention, Guy Road and the Envelope Coastal Grasp, and there is quite a bit of room to say that some of those attentions, some of those areas that need attention attention from the council, who have been giving those issues quite a lot of attention. So in conclusion, I put it to, I'm concluding.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. So we'll put that motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried.
I'll have a division, thank you.
Okay, we have a division. Those in favour? Councillor Whelan, Councillor Halstead, Councillor Bauer, Councillor Tassari, Councillor Lasserve, Councillor Kent, Councillor Lang. Those against? Councillor Lark. The motion is carried. H12, appointment of council committees and external committees. Mr. Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council appoints the Mayor and councillors to council committees and external committees to meet its legislative obligations and to enhance its involvement in community activities and to advocate on behalf of the community. This report recommends council appoint Councillor Lang as the councillor representative to the Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee and Councillor Whelan as the councillor representative to the Western Port Biosphere Reserve. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Can we have a councillor move that motion? Councillor Bauer, seconded Councillor Lang. Councillor Bauer, wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move it so that Councillor Lang doesn't move herself into a position, and I fully recommend the recommendations as we've agreed.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a minor adjustment to our commitments on these committees, and I'm looking very much forward to my new role.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, happy to put it to the vote. Councillor Bauer?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried, which brings us to H13, interim appointment and authorisation. Mr. Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend that council appoint the named officers as authorised officers under the Planning and Environment Act 1987, the Environment Protection Act 2017, and to revoke authorisation to officers that no longer require it. The recommended changes to instruments of appointment and authorisation will be made to implement the council's decision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Can I have a councillor move the motion as part of that report? Councillor Halstead, seconded. Councillor Tassari. Councillor Halstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say Jamie Mullen is a part of this. Is that correct? A part of this appointment of authorisation with the Environment Protection Act?
Mr. Mack.
Jamie Mullen?
Yes, yes, he is. Yeah. What, you have a question?
I haven't had the opportunity to meet Andrea Nino, who's the other one in this, but Jamie Mullen, I just wanted to say he's been a fantastic officer as far as helping me as a councillor, and I just wanted to give him a shout out because he does amazing work and he's always there whenever when I need him, and I really appreciate it. That was all. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. I'll pass on the all shucks from Jamie. Yes, Councillor, who's?
I second it.
Yeah, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have nothing further to add. I couldn't have put it better myself. Councillor Halstead.
Councillor Lark.
Yes, I just wanted to pass on my best wishes for a great performer over many years, Mr. Mark Lindsay. He's obviously gone on to greener pastures, or will do so, but I found Mark one of the tip-top performers within council prior to his recent leaving us. So I just want to pass on my thanks to Mark for all the work that he did extraordinarily over a great number of years.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. I'm sure you'll appreciate that. Councillor Tessari.
Thank you, Councillor Whelan. I wasn't sure where Councillor Halstead was going with her request on Jamie Mullen before, but Councillor Halstead, I can let you know that he's held in very high regard outside of our circles as well. So just reiterating what you had to say before.
Thank you, Councillor Tessari. I hope his pay's not coming up for negotiation. We're in trouble. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Halstead, do you wish to speak, or should we put that to a vote?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was remiss of me not to also mention Mark Lindsay, and thank you, Councillor Lark, for picking that up. I agree. I didn't have much time with Mr. Lindsay, but I did find him to be an incredible officer as well. And Andrea, please don't take any thing from that. It's just I haven't quite met you yet. So I'm sure there's time for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we can put it to the vote.
A lot of love in the room. That's really good. So we'll put that to a vote. Those in favour? That is carried, which brings us to statutory reports. And I ask the councillor to move the resolution of the agenda items 1.1 through to 1.5 be considered as a block. Councillor Lang, Councillor Tessari, those in favour? That's carried. Now, so does any councillor wish to raise any points or talk to any points in respect to those reports? If not, I seek that the councillor, the mover to the resolution and the recommendations attached to item agendas 1.1 through 1.5 be adopted. Moved, Councillor Tessari, seconded, Councillor Lang. Those in favour? That is carried. Try not to turn over 2 pages of my agenda at once. Urgent business. We haven't been advised of any urgent business. And now that brings us to the mayoral announcement of next meeting of council. The next council meeting will be held on the 16th of March 2022 in the Bass Coast Civic Centre Council Chamber, Failure Street East, Wonthaggi, commencing at 1 p.m. Thank you for watching the live screen of council meeting. The meeting will now be closed to the public and will end today's live stream. Thank you very much for your time today, councillors, and thank you very much to our viewers.